What's up, everybody? This is a Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and I'm your host, Sean Dustin. So this is number 2 of our double header this evening. We had a great show first up for you. Now we are going into Ron Ross and his 2 sons are here with us, along with the VP of my nonprofit, or our nonprofit, Nowhere to Go But Up project. And it, well, you'll hear the story here in a minute of how we met, and what Ron's doing, and his sons, and how that whole thing played out from his perspective as being a father of 2 sons that spent time in federal prison. That perspective has got to be interesting. It's interesting for me. And so, if you are watching on YouTube, do me a favor, thumbs this video up and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, also do me a favor and like and share this. The algorithm is not very nice to us if we don't want to pay them. So we greatly appreciate and need your help in sharing these episodes out to your friends and family and whoever it is that you want to see these. That's pretty much all I've got. You can check out the brand new website, which is nowhere to go but up pod.com. We got plenty of different things going there, and also the link tree, which has everywhere that you can find me on all my social media platforms. All the ways to donate, all the ways to support the show would be at linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up. So after these messages and this intro, we'll be right back with this story.
Sean Dustin spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. Upon release in 2006, he had nothing but the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and legal paperwork. In 2010, he kicked a long-time methamphetamine habit and started the long climb back up the ladder of life. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. If you want transparency and authenticity, you're in the right place. This is the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast, and this is Sean Dustin.
Hey. What's happening, everybody? So this is a first for me, having this many people on the stage and having a co-host, which is cool, man. I really am digging the way that it looks and how it's lined up. So how's everybody doing this evening?
Wonderful. Doing well.
Doing really well. Thanks for inviting me to co-host with you, Sean.
Yeah, no worries. And so why don't we introduce from my left? So Patrick is in the red. Let's start with him. Patrick, this is Mina.
How you doing?
Doing great. Good
Nice
to
to
meet
meet
you.
You know Ron, and then
Hey, Ron.
Vincent is right there. And so
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Vincent. Good to meet you, too.
So how this all really transpired and came about is me and Ron met each other on an airplane on a flight coming back from Tampa. There was some ghee butter involved, and a little bit of trying to use it as a microdose for my flight back with some THC infused ghee butter. I didn't realize that the container that I had it in had because the pressure from the airplane in containers And I went to open it up and put a little bit in my coffee, and I had the whole thing, the little teaspoon, and I was going to do all that to make sure I didn't take too much. And the thing just blew up right in. As soon as I went to open it, bam, hit my hand and got all over the place. And so, and I didn't have anything to like wipe it off with. So I'm like stressing because I can smell it. I'm like going, oh my God, I'm starting to heat up, and I'm getting red and flushed and starting to sweat. And I was, because we're in this little whatever it is, man, this small space, and it seemed so much worse when I was going through it than when I think back about it now. But to make matters worse, the stewardess, she was right behind me, and she bumped me with her butt, and it made me bump the tray, and then it spilled even more out the top because the oil's all on top, right? I was like, man, it was so stressful. Anyways, that's how Ron and me met. And so we ended up getting to talking, and he was telling me a little bit about, I'm like, did you smell that? And he was like, well, don't worry, man, I own a dispensary. And I was like, I was so relieved when he said it. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, you're my people, man.
Right.
And so, yeah, that just kind of broke the ice. And then we just got into chopping it up about a bunch of different things. And then came to find out, my podcast, and I was a formerly incarcerated individual. I spent some time in federal prison as well. And then it just led to that, him telling me about you guys, and that both of you had spent time in federal prison. And, fast forward a little bit. He gave some great information about raising funds, and so I thought that she'd be that information would be great for Mina to hear as well, because she is the vice president of the nonprofit, and we're always looking for different ways and listening to different people for different things. They get together and have some commonalities, and from the same area, and I know I'm kind of going on, but I just need to contextualize this meeting, right? And so
I think it was you had on, Ron, a Q shirt, and I was like, oh, my dad's a Q. Yeah.
And so that was awesome, because I sat back and was just listening to their conversation of how people are, like, who would have thought, right? Who would have thought that you guys would have had so many commonalities, because it was more than that. You guys were chopping it up for quite some time. So I was sitting back going, yep, I did it.
Yeah,
another good connection. So yeah, for sure. And she's like, well, we should have them on the show, because I mean that falls right into what we're doing and what we talk about, and the mission. And I thought it was a fabulous idea, and so here we are.
And I was fascinated to hear that both of his sons had been in federal pen, and the way you guys flipped that and created agency for yourself out of that experience in this entrepreneurial venture was just brilliant. And I was like, that conversation needs to be shared. That conversation needs to be shared.
Well,
So that's why we were.
my thought is that I got 10 things basically that I repeat to all four of mine over and over again. And it may be 11 by now, I don't know. But one is, it absolutely is not about where you start. Life is about where you finish. So sometimes you stumble a couple times on your way to that finish line, but it's much better to keep your eye on the prize and get to that finish line and achieve the goals you want to achieve. So it happens.
You gonna give us the other 9?
Oh, it's a bunch of them. It's a bunch of them.
Okay.
I said it's 10, but it's probably more like 100. But it's okay. I repeat them, so it's okay.
Okay.
So my question is so how did both of you guys end up in the federal system? Like how did that happen? Was it together? Was it separate? You guys were doing different things and ended up going away and for.
No, I actually when I was first arrested, went to prison for my crime. He was maybe 16. We were like living in two separate worlds. I had been running the streets already for a long time, and it just caught up with me. I was was probably in prison for 8 years before he actually got locked up, maybe 5 or 6 years. So it was like completely different things. Mine was more the lifestyle that I was living, and I really can't speak on what his was. But
So what?
For armed robbery and kidnapping. Initially, I was given 35 to life, and during the appeal process, I gave back 15 to life, and ended up serving 20 years on it. And I made parole the first time out, so that kind of helped me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for Patrick, what were
what he means by it was completely separate was this was years later on the whole other side of the country that I caught my crime. You know what I mean? But where I think where it does connect that is I was also hit for armed robbery out in Las Vegas, Nevada. But where it does connect that is that it's the same mentality that was just mismanifested. You know what I mean? Right train, wrong track. You know what I mean? By the time I got into criminality and all that kind of stuff, I'm destined for the same road.
So do you think you were influenced by looking up? Did you look up to your brother?
I mean, that's your big brother, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it was being coaxed into doing anything like that. It's just
aside from my father having 100 rules, my mother had some as well. Mm-hmm. And before I got arrested for the charge that sent me away, in '93, I was like 17. I got arrested for armed robbery in Baltimore. And I did like 13 months, and I beat the charge for the most part. And when I came home, my stepmother, my mother, she been my mother forever too. She told me, you have smaller eyes watching me. And it didn't register because my mind was still in the street. But when he actually caught his case, I wrote a letter to her, and it dawned on me what she meant. I didn't coax him into doing what he did, but by exposing him to that, it left that little bit of curiosity, and he pursued it. And that's all it takes. Your influence is that powerful. You just got to share a little bit of it, and if a person attaches to it, if it's bad, it's going to take it the wrong way. If it's good, it's going to take it the right way.
So you say hindsight is 20/20, huh?
Oh man, good. Perfect vision every time.
Yeah. So what was if you don't mind sharing, what did you share with him in the letter that you wrote to him?
Actually, the letter was to my parents apologizing because I knew that even in my youth, I felt when I came around that it was like they were happy to see me, but they really weren't happy for me to hang around, especially if the kids was there. Because that energy, I'm big on energy now, and there's a reason for that. That energy carries, and if I come around them with that negative energy, bringing them negative vibes, then they attach to it. And it wasn't that nobody loved me, why they didn't want me around. It's that I was bringing that bad juju.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody want to be around that, especially if you spent your life trying to build a peaceful environment. You don't want, no matter who it is, you don't want them bringing bad juju in. It wastes your time. So,
yeah, that
my roads, and by choosing those, I kind of opened the door for him to choose the same road.
But we all choose our own road.
You choose your own road, but you gotta be conscious of the influence you have over others.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why they pay
every time. You can't.
That's why they pay influencers, right? All that money, for a reason.
I took every program that the federal prison had to offer, and when they ran out, myself and a very good friend of mine, I met him in Leavenworth, USP Leavenworth. We created our own program. We got it accredited through the Federal Bureau of Prisons called Men of Influence. And it was an intense 6-month program. And right now, if you're a DC prisoner under the old law, you have to have Men of Influence before you make parole. It is what made me what I am right now. It's what got me over the hump. So we packaged it up and share it with others. But it's definitely your influence.
Mhm.
It's definitely-
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So Ron, where were you during all of this? Were you in the picture or were you out of the picture? Not like, you know what I mean? Not out of the picture, meaning, but like, was there a broken home? Were you divorced or were you just busy working?
Vince, you want to answer? You can answer.
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
I think that's not the right question. The right question is, where was I? Like, he can be present all he wants.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not present. What he's saying don't matter. And in my youth, like, I didn't want to hear what nobody had to say. My father, my mother, my grandmother. Like, I did what I did, and I ain't trying to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
At
Yeah.
15, I thought I was grown.
You did. Let me say this though. I have been married for 41 years, same woman. Vince was, I think, you were, no, you were 3 months old when I first met my wife.
Okay.
So, he has always been around and been part of our life. And his mother and my wife are very good friends as well.
Okay.
So I think that has helped. No, I am a do as I do, not a do as I say dad. So, I had a suit on every day, went to important jobs, college educated, and my job was to plant seeds. They don't always grow as quickly as you want them to. But I had to persevere. I had to make sure seeds were planted constantly. I laid down the law, and it was up to them to choose. Vince understood, Patrick too. In my house, things go the way I say they go. If you don't like it, go get your own house and you can make your own rules. Well, Vince, he was out on his own as a teenager. What, 17, 18?
I got first
15, yes. So it was early. Patrick, when he caught his charge, we were living in a 6,500 square foot house in Las Vegas with nothing but great things going on. But again, you can lay down whatever rules you want for young people. When that door closes, it's time to start making decisions. They make their own.
Mhm.
Sometimes they make good ones. Sometimes they make bad ones. I've always taught, you know what, nobody's going to be perfect, but you have to make a habit of making more good decisions than bad decisions, and that will play itself out. It will help move you in the right direction.
Right.
Again, I say the same things over and over again. I'm sure they are tired of hearing them, but those are the seeds that were planted. Maybe I had to wait a little longer than most parents, but they do extremely well right now. Responsible adults, assets to the community, and doing what they're supposed to do. And following my tenet that is not how you start, is how you finish. And lastly, let me say this. In my experience, I have seen the worst people come from the best places, and I've seen the best people come from the worst places. And it's all about the decision process. We get choices every single day, and you just got to learn to make the right decisions.
Right.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I wasn't trying to say anything. I just, because, I had no idea that, things, there was a stable situation there, because I came from an unstable one. And so you never really know what, I said all that to say this, you never really know what's going to affect somebody and make them go, what direction they go. I think a couple of questions, one I have for both of you, Vincent and Patrick, are, when was the point when you kind of realized that, like, I'm not going in the right direction and something needs to change?
I was never a slow individual with certain things. Everything else I was slow in. But like you realize that every single choice you realize that this is the wrong. You realize you're doing. Everybody understands that. You know what I mean? I mean, unless you're raised on eating crack in your cereal, then you're gonna know not to smoke crack, or at least you know you did wrong if you smoke it. And back to what my brother said, we seldom agree on anything. But back to what my brother said, if you can't hear it, it doesn't matter who wants to say it, how they're gonna say it, or any of that. And to put a little bit more on there, if you can't feel, there's a lot of adolescents that are not only don't understand your emotions or your thought process, have no idea what's really going on in here, but they become numb to things very early. And I was one of those people so I couldn't hear and I couldn't feel. You know what I mean? And so I was destined to go ahead and burn myself on the fire. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter about where you are. It doesn't matter about who you're around. If you can't think for yourself, your environment will dictate you exactly what you're gonna. And if you have bad habits of putting yourself around the wrong people, well, that's gonna go even worse. You know what I mean? And
yeah, because influences.
And what ends up happening is you start catching a stride for the wrong things. Just the same way as you catch a stride for doing the right things. You develop these habits. You feed it to yourself every day. I get up. I gotta work out. I gotta get to school. I gotta get my kids to school. Everything that a successful person goes through, and those habits they build, you can build the same skaters going down. You know what I mean? You just have to figure out which ones you want to do. And you'd be motivated to do it. It doesn't matter how right or wrong it is. People are going to do what people are going to do. It's your motivation. My motivation, my little girl. That's the only thing that's going to make me straighten up. You know what I mean? So God dropped her right in my lap. Other than that, I didn't understand selfishness, the nature of selfishness. You know what I mean? And that's really what it comes down to.
So you said something that was really kind of key there when you had your daughter, because then it no longer became about you anymore. It became about somebody else and the example that you have to lead for them, right? And so, I mean, that's kind of really what, because you spoke right to me. That's, my daughter is the same thing. I was a toxic person for a long time.
Right.
And, I was somebody who was abusive, verbally, mentally, and emotionally to all the females that I was with in my life. And it wasn't until, so here's what happened for me. My daughter, I was in a rage, and my daughter was behind me. She's about 1.5 years old, and I go to start yelling again, and then I look back, and she was gone. I went to look for it. It snapped me out of my rage. I'm like, oh, where'd she go? And so I went to look for her, and she was in the furthest part of the house, right? Scared, trembling, crying, and in a ball. And immediately what I started to think is, I wonder if that was me when I was a kid, right? And my parents were doing the exact same thing. And then immediately right after that, I started thinking, well, if I keep doing this and this keeps happening, then she's going to grow up thinking this is normal. And when she gets herself into that situation down the road, she's going to stay with she's going to stay when she should leave. And so if I want to to be a better example and stop the cycle, it has to be with me. And so all of that came into my head, like right in that moment. And it was like everything became very clear. And then I left the relationship immediately. And so, thank you for saying that, because I mean, sometimes, you never know what it's going to take to make you wake up and realize that, oh wow, there's a different way. Right. And I'm glad you did, and I'm glad you're doing very well. Your dad's a cool dude, and what you're doing there for work is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
So you said something, Patrick, that really touched me. You said that adolescents become numb, and you were one of those. Can you talk a little bit about like what made that numbness overtake you? How did that come about? And what did you observe once you began being that way?
I didn't understand it until later, so it was a hindsight thing.
Yeah.
So I can't really, it's hard to explain what it was like being in that mind state. But in that mind state, it's like the best I can explain is like watching a movie. Sometimes I used to tell my mama that. Like, I'm watching a movie, same movie you watch. I got no more control over this than you do. If it jumps in my head, it might just happen. I don't know. We can't even bet on that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I watched my brothers, both of my older brothers who come from completely different circumstances than I was embedded in. I had this guilt, as well as because when you have men in the house, especially a certain type, if you have men in the house, there's always going to be some sort of pecking order.
Ah.
And because I was numb, didn't understand what feelings and emotions are. They're passing right through me. I don't even know what they are. I don't even understand that this is what this is. It's making me feel like this. It's connected to this, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know when I'm feeling this, I'm going to feel somewhere different. And I watched my brothers who came from completely different circumstances than me go through. I'm not standing up. Like, I'm not standing up. I used to come home crying after getting beat up in the neighborhood we lived in. I just got tired of that one day. And it might sound logical, but it's very illogical. Because I could have walked the other way. Or I could have pulled my pants up. I could have not been around those people at all. But no, instead, I chose to go down there and go do it my way. And now those habits I was talking about before start developing. Boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom, 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 boom. And what was frustrating was that I couldn't tell. That's what the numb is. You can't tell. You know, it's not. The feelings are so fleeting. They happen so fast and then they're gone. I'm upset and it's gone. I'm happy and then it's gone. So now I start developing these, bad things like now I want to get drunk. Now I want drugs. Now I want to fight. Now I want to pick up weapons. Now I want to. It just keeps going further and further and further. And I swear, a lot of these young, and it has to be early adolescents. A lot of these young dudes and women, especially women, but young dudes and women don't understand that numbness because you just now got into that mindset that I'm not 12 or 11 or 10 anymore. I don't need nobody. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not completely. I can think for myself. Matter of fact, everything that I think is right. It's gotta be. It's in my head. It's gotta be. And you don't even realize this is just madness that you think. You know this is stupid, right?
Yeah.
You end up.
Yeah.
Down that path, and it's not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah. I have an 18-year-old son, and we just had his 18th birthday at my house in May. He's born May 19th, May 20th. And he was outside with some of his friends, and I hear this crash, and I go outside, and he's put his fist through my window. He got mad about something, right? And I was just like, what happened? So just yesterday we were talking about it because he was like, Mom, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know where it came from. And I was just like, wow. So a month later, now we're talking about it again. And he's like, you know what I realized, Mom? After my mother died in 2016, his grandma. And he said, I got a line in my mind of Malcolm before grandma died. And after that, I changed. I figured like I couldn't cry about it. I had to stuff it. Men don't cry. So I just stopped feeling. And I was like, wow. And so at his birthday party, he had his first girlfriend right there with him. And I was like, see, when you open up that heart, you can't control what comes through it. Right. So now his feelings for this girl are making him feel all this other stuff. And he's putting his fist through my window. And I'm like, dude. Right? So I feel what you're saying. I feel what you're saying about like that. I just experienced it with my boy, that numbness. And like then the consciousness comes on you and you're like, wow.
And it doesn't have to happen. Pop was saying something to me the other day about everything on its own time. You know what I mean? Everything on its own time. The good thing about this is something that people don't talk about too. It's not about eating your Wheaties and feeding kids. Listen, stay in school, kid, and all that kind of, that don't help nothing anyway. You know what I mean? You have to break it down to always look. This is why this is here. This is why this is here. This is why this is here. And now you do what you do. You do what you want to do. You do what's right. I'm gonna give you the roadmap. It's on you which way you
the equation.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it's hard, extremely hard. I've only been a father for a matter of months. And I've noticed that it's extremely hard to be a good dad and a good earner at the same time. Maybe that's just in the beginning. for me. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of times that I miss with my dog. I haven't caught her on the potty yet. She been on the potty 2-3 times now. Every single time, this stuff I'm gonna miss. You know what I mean?
Right.
Stuff I already missed. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it helps you understand other people around you, but only because you went this far can you see what they're seeing. So I speak of, like when I say that, I speak of my father. Things that things that he doesn't even have to say now that just pop up in my mind because he said the same 10 things over and over and over again. It really did just sit back there. So sometimes things will pop up and I can actually hear his voice like right back there. You know what I mean? Like, what? But you gotta put in that work though.
Can I interject something? You know what? Raising kids, and I've been a father all my life, but raising kids is not rocket science. Parent has one real big thing to do. Well, two. Set a good example and keep the stupid kids alive long enough for them to figure it out. You can set all rules in the world. I don't want kids that are going to just follow every single rule. I can say that now because they're, babies. Because I want kids that can think for themselves. Okay? Kids need two little things. And I understand what you're saying because I work constantly. I hustled constantly. When I wasn't working, I was doing other things to earn money. Because I think in my mind, that's what I needed to do. That was my part. But kids need two little things: time, attention. That's it. Okay? If you can provide your kids with time and attention, everything else will take care of itself. That's just my personal opinion. Okay? But and it then would, in my opinion, create fewer disconnects. Right? They understood the rules of the game. They didn't understand I was planting seeds constantly. I felt like it was the appropriate thing for me to put on a suit every day and go work at Booz Allen and Hamilton and other, large corporations and things like that. I'm showing, and I'm from a bad place, and they are too. So I'm showing, it can be done. Bottom line, if I had to do it again, and I always say I don't want to ever do it again, but if I had to do life again, I would think my 61-year-old self says, you know what, it'd be more important to be present as much as possible. Not earn. But it's easy for me to say now.
That's the same 20/20 hindsight, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And what you're speaking to, Patrick, is you're starting to see that imbalance, and I've seen it too. And for the last 14 months, I was able to be home and doing what I wanted to do, and be able to co-parent my daughter and do all of these things. And it's just now I'm back at work, and I'm like, God, man, it takes so much of your time away from you. Sometimes, and it's, and watching a little person grow and figure things out, mine's almost 4. So, I mean, that's that age where they're just, just figuring out things and, the really important stuff and all that stuff. So, I mean, that's great, man. I really appreciate you sharing that. Let's go to Vincent and ask the same question. So at what point did you kind of realize that I got to do something different, man? These things aren't going the way that I need them to.
I kind of know exactly. It was November 2002. I just got an 11-word USP, and I was in a state joint, and I read how it's like inside Leavenworth. So that was amazing to me. I was in prison, I was gonna be here for a long time, but I never, read the thing to that level. One day they called me to R&D and was like, pack up. And I was like, where I'm going? USB Leavenworth. So that was I was 23 or 24 years old. So it was about to be real. I got there, the homies first thing they did was gave me knives, make sure I was straight. They didn't tell me that they come do periodically and do random shakedowns. So I got caught with 3 knives in my cell. And around the time that this happened, as a matter of fact, while I was in the hole, my appeal papers that came back, and they told me that they'd taken off 15 to life. So now I had 20 to life. So it's great news I'm about to give, but then I get a piece of paper that says that the SIS, which is the people who can, govern what goes on in the prison, they were sending my knife shot to the FBI. And the last guy they sent the knife shot for, they charged him and gave him 10 years. So I'm like, I just gave back 15. Now I'm gonna pick up 10. It wasn't about me having to do time because I already accepted my position. But I couldn't figure out how I was gonna explain that to my mother. That I gave back 15, but I picked up 10. And you gotta figure out somebody. You gotta find somebody that, if you can't figure it out for yourself, somebody that's bigger than you that you can do it for. Because I think there was a point in there that I really cared what happened to me. I was resigned to what I was a great deal with. I had 35 to life. I was 20 when I got it. I was gonna be 55 going on. What I'm gonna do at 55? Gave the time back. It gave me some life, and I was like, yeah, I ain't gonna be able to explain this to my mother. And then the paperwork came back, and they didn't charge me, and they let me go, let me out back on the population. And when I got out of that, I just started taking all the classes they offered. First thing I had to take was anger management. That was one of my biggest problems. And I'm gonna fast forward a little bit to men of influence. One of our biggest components is emotional maturity, because at that age, there is no, you just said it about your son. One of the first things I did when I got out of the hole was I found that I could write. So I wrote a book, and then I wrote another book. And when I realized that, I started doing it for my mother. I was like, well, you can do this for yourself too, because you're pretty amazing. Like, you shocked. Like, you ain't stupid. You don't gotta, I love my mother, but I don't gotta live for my mother. I can live for myself. I just gotta want better for me. And that was my approach with it. I wrote a short story. It's like 20 pages called The Fast Lane Theory. And it was my way of explaining why my decisions were what they were when I was at that age. I think you got like the first, when you have a child, I don't have any children, so for me to say this is probably conjecture, although I was a child. I think you got the first 12 years of their life to plant those seeds you were talking about. Because once they go off to middle school, it speeds up. How well you planted those seeds, I think is going to dictate how they manipulate the speed. Because if they can't control it and it gets it to 100 miles an hour, there's really nothing you can do now. Because you can't jump in a 100 mile per hour car and hit the brake. They're going to have to do that. And that's what had me. That's why my decisions were, you can't make a right turn doing 100. You got to slow down and manipulate the turns. You can't make it at 100 miles an hour. And by the time I hit 15, 16, I was going 150. And I was destined to hit a wall or hit police spikes or something. And that's what 20 years was. If I hit a wall, I'd be dead. So my case pretty much rescued me. It took me to
I was going to say, it saved your life. Yeah.
Yeah, it saved my life. I'd have been dead in 6 months.
So let me ask you something. That story that you wrote about, what was it called? The
Fast Lane Theory?
The Fast Lane Theory.
Yes.
How did telling your own story in your own words did it change your perspective about?
Well, you know what happened?
The experience?
It changed my perspective about writing, period. Because I didn't know I could write. And when I said I was doing it for my mother, I started taking programs, and I had a chaplain Steckel in Leavenworth. And he pulled me to the side one day. He said, I like what you're doing, but I'd love it if you really meant it. I was like, what you mean? He said, you just faking it till you make it. You tired of getting in trouble, but you don't want to truly commit to staying out of trouble. So you just faking it. But it's cool because you're not getting in trouble. But I love it more if you truly committed yourself to it. And so they had this new program coming called Life Connections. It was a pilot program. It was a faith-based program. Something I really wasn't into. I'm not a religious person. And I took it. I went under general religion. I studied Buddhism and Hinduism, and a few Muslim sects. And during it, you had one of your activities was journal writing. I was like, I still got cases that's open. I'm not writing about no real stuff. So again, I'm faking it till I make it. But my faking it, like a lot of it was
Caught
fake,
up with you?
but then it wasn't even catch up with me. But
Yeah.
the people who ran the program was like, hey, like, is this real? Because if it's not real, you're a great writer. And I started writing more and more and more. And then I realized I had some intelligence. So I started reading more. And it just became like, I think if you know better, you do better. People say if you dress better, you feel better. But if you know better, you do better. You don't have the luxury of saying, I don't know. You can't feign ignorance. So I kind of pushed myself to know as much. He's the smartest guy I know. So I pushed myself to be that smart. So if I know that much, there's really not a lot I can say I don't know. And I can't be ignorant about something or walk into a trap. Because I already know. I see it coming.
Yeah, I like what you said there, man. So, Ron, what was it? How did you feel? When your sons went to prison. I mean, I know how my dad must have felt when I did, and and mine actually was a cop. And so, I didn't talk to him for 15 years once he realized, that's what was going down. So, like, what was that like for you as a father?
Well, I'm the son of a cop as well. And my mother was a teacher, so I had both of those brothers. But it was a source of extreme frustration for me. My wife says that I am a responsibility hog. She calls it something different, but I need to be in charge of everything. Thought is this: I was responsible for protecting my progeny. At that point, I had to give up that responsibility to the state, to the federal government. It broke my heart. It bothered me to no odd end, but it is what it is. Life's a contact sport. I understand that. Mine has been extreme contact. And you just got to take that contact and keep pushing. Right. You can't let reality, dictate your responses. So I stayed true to mine. I stayed true to my rules, and I moved through it. Time passes by. In Vince's case, at first, it was necessary for him to get locked up. He wasn't exaggerating. He'd been dead in 6 months, maybe not enough. I've seen him in very bad situations. I've had 2 hospital situations, and one he got stabbed up, and the other one he got hit in the head with a 4x4 multiple times. Both times he was very lucky to survive. So then he got locked up, and I'll be honest with you, there was a slight sigh of relief that went along with my frustration. In Patrick's case, though, and by the way, I have 4 sons, all of which have a particular part of my personality, and my mother wished them on me. She wanted me to have kids just like I was. But I'm the luckiest man in the world, so I got breaks that they didn't get. But in Patrick's case, I was well into being a upwardly mobile, successful person, doing well, and that frustration was exacerbated by the frustration you would normally feel from your kid getting locked up was exacerbated by the fact that I thought I was doing the right things, and he just didn't catch on yet. But I mean, I knew both of them would, and they have, and they both are doing extremely well. So again, if you don't let life beat you up and jump off a cliff about it, because it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
Right.
And it's a battle of attrition. Stay in the game. If you're in the game to fight, you can keep swinging the next day, no matter how bad the beating was today. So it's just that's the way I think, and I'm kind of contrary and stuck to my ways. So it's just how it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like what you
I'm
said.
very pragmatic, by the way. So almost to a fault. Very pragmatic. I take it as it comes, and I serve it right back.
Life is a contact sport. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's that
So
kind of
what was
stuck
your-
with. No, go ahead, Mina.
I was going to say, what was your relationship like when your sons were in prison? Did you guys communicate frequently? What was that like?
I'll let them speak to that. I got another rule. If you want to be tight with me, don't get locked up. And so I've always had a good relationship with my sons. I'm thinking that's going to work, right? I'm thinking that, hey, they want to be tight with me, so I don't do no visiting. I will communicate back and forth. I'll send you some inspirational poems. What needs that? But he needs that. Nah, I don't visit, and that's a day one rule. And I think I got that from my father. Very conservative cop, one of the first 2 black cops in Washington D.C. by the way. And I still hold to it. As soon as they both got out, they came right to me. So I think we were okay.
Yeah. One time, 20 years. Never saw. Send money, talk on the phone. He go send inspirational poems. He go do that. Birthday cards.
Yeah.
Mom did that. She just put your name in. He meant that, and I knew that going in, and I know he
knew that.
Okay. He gonna help, but he ain't coming to see nobody.
But it really is because he can't. I cannot imagine that man visiting me in the visiting room, and then when it's time for me to go back to the hall, they put my handcuffs on and excuse me, sir, you got that's not how my father works. Like, you're not gonna take my son back there, and then it's gonna be a huge issue. Now he gonna be down the road.
He gonna be there with her.
Yeah, he gonna be there.
Right. Right.
It goes back again to that catching them early. Like you're not. Me and him didn't have a. We could. When I went in, we couldn't be in the same house. I didn't understand anything that's coming out of his mouth. Absolutely nothing. This man is crazy.
He's on 150 miles an hour.
This is not the way the world works.
Music turned down. You can't hear.
You have no idea. No, this is not the way the world works.
Slow down and cut the music off. You can hear now.
Yeah, you can hear me now. Huh?
But you can hear now, can't you? Sit down. It's necessary sometimes, though.
Yeah. So I want to ask a question about being inside and coming back out, and as somebody who's reintegrated and been a returning citizen, what did you feel was lacking, if anything? Maybe you had a support system, but if you were to think about it from a perspective of folks that come out, because there's a lot of folks that come out that don't have support systems, right? And what did you see in your time there that you would want to change?
I think that he had a Senator Sam Brown back. He initially tried to run for president maybe in 2005 or 6, and his push was for restorative justice opposed to retributive justice. Retributive justice is when you do the crime, you do the time. Restorative justice, you do the crime, and then I hate to use the word reacclimate, because I think in my position, I never allowed myself to be acclimated to society. You can't really be acclimated to society at 14 and 15 years old. You should be in middle school. But restorative justice like sit you down with the crimes you've committed and hold you accountable with your peers and with your community, right? And it may not work for a lot of people, but the sense of teaching opposed to punishing, because the punishment is the time you receive, correct? You get your punishment with your time. But when you get to prison, you get more punishment for the entire time, which creates monsters when they come out, especially if they go in with no, they didn't have 10 rules repeated to them for the first 12, 13 years of their life, right? So they don't have anything to, they don't have a foundation to fall back on. So then they succumb to
The environment.
all of the traps that come with prison. And you lose a lot like that. I got a lot of friends, a lot of associates from prison who they do 15, 20 years, and because they allow themselves to become, another word I like to use, institutionalized, they can't acclimate at all to society because society doesn't work the way prison works. Prison is abnormal. It needs to be not, I don't want to say, in a sense, the setting needs to be normalized. Like not normalized prison, but you got to prepare people for society. And living in an abnormal environment for 20 years and then kicked out the door is not preparing me for it. Had I not done the things that I chose to do,
Right.
I would be in the streets right now, 6 months away from getting killed. Like it. That's why recidivism is at 72, 73%. I can see why. Like I was there. It's not enough given, and which is why we wrote Men of Influence. And the next step is when Carlos comes on is to create an aftercare for Men of Influence. You take it in prison, and you come home, you do federal half hours, whatever you got to do, and then we create a halfway house for you that guides you into society, and not just give you somewhere to sleep, go find a job. Pay me 50% of what you make. How you expect me to get out? What am I supposed to do when I get out? Halfway house wants half of what you make. If you there 6 months, you busting that check down for 6 months. I'm gonna save money and get ready to get my own place. So Men of Influence will have an aftercare for that. Give you time to get yourself together. There's really no aftercare. One of the other main things is I've figured out for myself. I suffer from PTSD from doing 20 years in prison. Acute PTSD. Like there are things that happen inside of being there, numbing. When he spoke up, well, you're forced to numb in prison. Because you lose people, you can't carry that on your shoulder when you go to the rec yard. Your girl leave you, you can't walk around with that chip on your shoulder, so you're forced to numb your feelings in an abnormal environment. And then I'm released into what you say is normal, but I'm numb. Like I don't feel nothing. I don't feel it because it's hard to break out of that after being frozen for 20 years. So I mean, normalizing the setting of prison would help to dudes coming back out because it makes a big difference. That door open and slamming every time you go to and fro and somebody hollering out child, wreck. Like normalize it a little bit. Like, put some responsibility on people. Make them be accountable for what it is they doing. Because otherwise you're gonna send ill-prepared, grown savages back out into society. And we already see what happens.
Yeah, that behavior's coming out with them.
Yeah, it's coming with them. Definitely.
Absolutely.
And it's coming with a chip on the shoulder that they couldn't walk around the joint with. And they take it out on people that otherwise wouldn't even be in a situation where violence would be a problem or somebody's stuff getting took. Like they gotta remember that when you snatch these criminals off the street and put them back out there, do you want to put a criminal back out there, or do you want to put someone out there that can become an upstanding citizen? And with them tossing away the key, if I didn't have my support system, be a problem right now. But I'm accountable to people. I got a lot of people that I got to be accountable for and accountable to because they're investing their time and energy into me. it's wasted if I go back and do the same thing.
No, those are great points. Thanks for answering that question. I think that reentry should start the moment you get locked up.
For sure.
And starting that mindset as to, okay, well, how am I going to mitigate this now? How are we going to get through this? And so, like, where my goal is to try to get some sort of curriculum into their hands the moment that they get locked up, or whether it's through prison ministries or because they're allowed to go in and out of there, or finding different mentors that you can hook up with in there that want to buy into the program. But yeah, for sure, it's tough, man. And a lot of it, I think, is a lot of people say that the system's broken, but I don't think it's broken at all. I think it's working the way that it's supposed to.
Perfect. That's exactly what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Nothing broken about that system, which is why there's no attempts made to fix it. Just add-ons, just plugins. They're just adding stuff to it.
Oh yeah, there's this tweak, they're tweaking it over here, a little tweak over here, and it'll move a little bit over here, and
amendment here, amendment there, and they let it ride for 3 years, and then the next president come in and they wipe it out. None of it is real. It's all an illusion. That system is perfect.
Yeah. So when I look at, I'm a data person. I'm an educator too, and so when I look at things like in my county here, they spend about $7,000 a year to educate a child, but they'll spend $30,000 a year to incarcerate someone.
Better investment.
And
way better.
Policy says that they'll take, rather than making an additional investment in education, they use third-grade test scores to create prisons 20 years down the line. So that tells you how insidious the system is.
It tells you that the forefathers were geniuses. They created a machine that would last well after they were gone and couldn't be destroyed except for if it was done from the inside. And it had to be somebody with power on the inside to do it. And we way past that. We caught up with all the glitter and glamour, all the politics. That's our problem.
I think that prison as an industry, if anything needs to be changed, in my opinion, I think that prison being the number one industry, for anybody who monetizes their justice system, is deplorable. I feel like the fact that people's lives are completely changed, generations of people are changed. You can direct this to a certain people, whatever people you feel you need to direct it to. I feel like the political pull that it has, if you're not tough on crime, you won't get to be a mall cop manager, let alone president in this country. And the reason that recidivism and programs like Meta Influence are so important is because with recidivism, that is their money coming back. No matter what, their money's coming back. You know how much it costs the taxpayer for every single UA? You know how much it costs? You know how much it costs to pay those guys overtime to drive this bus full of criminals that we're gonna rehouse, restock, and refed, and we're gonna get some more money when they get over there too. Every time we pick up a bedroll, that's another couple grand they get. You know what I mean? And it's a far uneven number for America. There are felony conviction and inmates. Our felony inmates far, by numbers that make you look at it, you're like, there's no way that this is by accident. I think
on the global stage,
I have to pay. If I don't want to go through 10 years, I better pay $200,000 to a good lawyer. The fact that that's the way the actual system works is the fact that depending on who's in office, you can get more time, you can get less time. If it's gonna be about what's right and what's wrong, or if it's gonna be about justice, let it actually be about justice in some form. If it's still gonna be money, it shouldn't be that much. There's no reason why the commissary should be pulling a couple $1 million a month. There's no reason. There's something fundamentally wrong with this. And also mental health. The fact that 99% of these places are just warehouses for people with mental disorders, and from top to bottom. You walk
Yes.
around the cycle. Yeah, you walk around a different issue every day. You know what I mean? Causing its own issues within yourself. And there is absolutely none. There is absolutely no room for any of that in there. If you start yelling, if you start you're going to a hole somewhere, they're gonna snatch your clothes off, drop you in there, and you're gonna sit down there and you'll get fed geodone and high-level psychotropic drugs in order to put you to sleep. You know, guys, I've seen guys go to the hole for 5 years, come out. This dude was something different before he went in. He's drooling now. And these are people who don't have families that can speak up for them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the fact that all of that is cloaked so much, it's so well hidden from public knowledge. It's not common knowledge to know what's going on in there and how bad it is or where you should be looking. It's terrible. I think that needs to change immediately.
Well, you get retaliated against if you even, because I know a few women that, like Lynn is one who spoke out about that. A lot of the things that she was doing a blog from her women's federal prison, and she was blogging, having somebody blog her information out, and they were literally every time they got a chance, they were writing her up, putting her in the hole. Doing things to retaliate against her. But at some point she just kept following their procedures for, writing them up and doing this and doing that. By the time she left,
Run that paper trail.
yeah, by the time she left, they were like, oh, no, we ain't messing with you. Yeah. You're that one that gets people fired.
Yeah, right. There's definitely a chain of command, and if you follow it properly, you can, and right, if you're in the right, and you write accurately, you can make some things happen.
Yeah, for sure. So let's before we end, we're in about an hour here. Do you guys got time? A little bit more time, or you guys? Okay, Mina, you good?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so let's. And do you have any more questions that you want to ask? Let's start there. Do you have any more questions that you want to ask? Because I'm going to get into the business of what they do.
That was the question I was going to ask. So we on the same page.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead and ask what you want?
Yeah. So as you come out of prison, and you all, how did you begin conceiving of this business venture? Was it something you thought about while you were in the pen? Was it like, how did it evolve?
As a part of taking a lot of programs, I took a business class in McDowell, FCI McDowell, and I picked it up so well that the teacher asked me to teach it for him. And it was basically around building the live business plan and just different aspects of business. And I taught the class I did 4 different classes, and then I started Men of Influence on this compound. It's a brand new compound. So I did the business class, and then I did Men of Influence. But I picked up a lot of things while I was doing it. And in my free time, I was already preparing. I was probably 9 years away from my getting released, but I was already preparing. I was seeing things that I wanted to do, things that interest me, and I started writing them out. Kind of like how I was writing my books.
Mm-hmm.
I got a real particular way of writing, and it has to be done this way for me to even get anywhere. And I did that with what I wanted to do when I came home. And everything didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen, but I persevered and it happened. It's happening. I think the biggest thing I did was have all of my vital information when I got out. So that when I got the opportunity to go get my driver's license, I didn't have a problem, my social security card, my birth certificate. I was able to do these things. Can't apply for a job without a driver's license. Another part of Men of Influence, it's a release preparation course. And another part of it is job interviews and the things you have to, to build a resume and just the steps you got to take. Knowing those, having a full understanding and being able to explain it to someone else is the kind of knowledge you need with those things when you come out. It's preparation. Again, you're coming from an abnormal environment. And if you understand that, what I did, I can't speak, but what I did was I normalized it in my head. Somebody got stabbed on the rec yard, and I was in education. And it was actually a move. I was trying to get back to the block, get my bag, and go to commissary. But the dude got stabbed real bad out there, so we had to sit. as I'm sitting there, I don't even know why I'm thinking this, but I can see pretty much the entire compound with the perimeter fencing and all, and it just hit me like, for like the last 2 years, like this been your whole world. Like you can see your world. This ain't real. Like this can't be it. And I had been in so long, it was like, am I ever gonna get out? So I had to start normalizing what I was saying. Like, not even normalize, I had to see it for what it was. And you get lost in there. You don't see it for what it is. This is prison, it's not real. And pretty soon I'm not gonna be here anymore. And I need to be ready to deal with out there. I honestly believe that all the things that I did before, when I got released, the camp worker drove me to Pittsburgh. And like we drove through downtown and I'm looking up like I just recently saw the night sky for the first time. When I got right before I got released, I hadn't seen the night sky. In the pen, you get locked down with the sun up. Mm-hmm. So like I was amazed in the FCI, like, oh my God, the night sky. So then I'm riding through downtown Pittsburgh and I'm like, sensory overload. Like it's people, it's cars, it's buildings, the lights. Quick story. I was at the bus station. I went to the bathroom. I was at the stand-up urinal. And I used the bathroom. I did everything I was supposed to do. And I'm going to reach for the handle. And I'm like, and I went to turn to ask somebody about the handle, and it flushed. I stood at the sink.
You're like, when did that happen?
Huh?
You're like, when did that happen? That's new technology.
I'm standing at the sink. The sink won't do anything. I'm like, what? The little dispenser, nothing is working. There's no handles. So I go to walk away, and as I walk away, I think I had a tissue aside. I grabbed the tissue prior, and I reached to grab it, and my hand went past, and the water went on. I was like, like it's nothing you got to touch. Yeah. It was amazing to me. After initial sensory overload, it's like it was back to business. Somebody hit play, and all I can think is, I gotta get my driver's license. I gotta get a whip. I gotta get some steady money coming in. I gotta get a job. He hated that. He didn't want me to get a job. I ain't sitting around letting nobody give me no allowance. Like, you can help me, but I need my own. And I'm behind. It's from 41. I'm starting like an 18-year-old getting kicked out of the house at 41. Right. And only thing I know is there's no option. I got no options. Failure's not an option. I got nowhere to go but up. I'm starting from scratch. And I just gotta be patient and let it come to me. Let it come to me. No, stop. I ain't chasing nothing. I like nice things, so I might use my brain to make some legitimate money so I can have the things that I like to have. And I started in prison. I started 9 years before I got released. Anybody tell you that they did 15 and they ain't take no classes, they did 1 or 2 classes, they don't really know what they want, I can tell you that's not going to be a successful person when he's released. It's not that easy. It's not that easy.
Can I explain something? I actually didn't want him to work. I put him in a position and said, look, you got a year to get yourself acclimated to the real world. You know, most black young men don't have that option, okay? I'm good, okay? I can cover you for that. I'm a workaholic, so working is important to me, but more importantly, in this particular case, if you take a 20-year hit, if you're 19, 20 years old getting locked up and you get out at 39 or 40, you're still 19 and 20 as far as the real world is concerned. And so I felt like he needed to take time to see how things are working, take some classes if that's necessary. And he did go to college and did very well and those types of things. But he hit the ground running. He could not be held back. And, he got a job, didn't like it, got another job, didn't like it, then all of a sudden figured out, well, you know what, there's another way we have to look at this. And then he got a job, then he came work for me. Well, he didn't like that because it's going to be my way. And again, my rule is that you don't like the way I do things, you go do your own. And he very impressively went out and started his own business and has done well. So, again, I don't care what the motivation is, you just got to motivate
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So the cannabis business, I mean, how did I know you went from a bunch of different things to, that you did before that. And I think you said you retired, right?
I did. Well, they laughed because I retired 3 times.
Oh,
I have definitely worked
tired
hard.
again.
I need challenges, and I work in the community. I belong to an organization. We do community work. That's what we're supposed to do. But it wasn't enough. And this might sound bad, but I am a money motivated person. Not that I need a lot, but that's the way I compete with myself. And I truly believe everything in the world is owned and controlled by somebody else. And you have to be skilled to go out and communicate your position and work appropriately to get a piece of that pie. Okay, and that is how I compete with myself. So I always need something to do. And so yeah, it was my 3rd time retiring. But here's what happened. So my youngest son, Terrence, I mentioned I got 4 sons, all just diametrically opposed to each other as far as personality.
Right.
4 completely different people, but all a little part of my personality, which is really funny. We laugh about this all the time. But Terry, the youngest, is a hippie, and he is a savant at growing weed. I didn't know, but I quickly learned. And he came to me one day. I bought a farm up here. We got a ton of property, and he asked me could he grow a crop of weed. Well, it's legal, so I said okay. But again, if he just decided to do it, it wouldn't be legal. So I went out and got a medical marijuana growing license, and got him on the road. And first year, he grew a crop. My business partner, I own a healthcare company in Vegas. We sold it. And my business partner called me and asked me, hey, Ron, I know you're in Oregon. Can you send me some weed? And this is a Harvard PhD. And he has been the CIO for some very major corporations. I won't mention what they are. But, and so I sent him some of what Terry had grown. He had it tested. He has a friend with a lab. He had it tested. And it tested at 32%, which is a high number. And it was outdoor. It was sun grown. It's almost impossible to do that. So for 6 months, my partner just kept pushing me. Ron, you got to go into business, man. You need to buy a farm. You need to do this. And this boy's good. He's not a boy. He's 34. So sorry. And so the thought is, after about 6 months, I was like, dude, I'm retired. All I want to do is raise my animals and chill. And then it just came to a point. He threw a big bag of money at me and said, let's do this. And I said, okay. I've made money for him before in the past, and I tell my sons all the time, if you become adept at returning a profit, the people you make that profit for will always invest in you. And as you get older, you start getting more of the lion's share. In this particular case, I got the serious lion's share. So instead of growing, I decided that a dispensary would be a better way to go, and actually want to completely vertically integrate this and grow, sell, distribute, and do extracts as well. So, and then once I'm done with that, I can step back and have it run for me. So that's the story of how I got here. It was all an accident. I did mention to you that I am the luckiest man in the world. When I say that, though, I fully understand you make your own luck in life, and you got to be prepared for every opportunity that comes your way. So people laugh at me, say, "Oh, Ron, you're overeducated, man. Why do you keep going to school?" But I listen probably twice as much as I speak, and that makes sure ensures that every day I'm going to learn something new. And I just keep banking those lessons and life experiences. And when certain opportunities come my way, I jump on them. So I've had a really diverse experience as far as where I work. Science, technology, construction, environmental health and safety, retail, and healthcare. Yeah, it's not a straight path, but it's the way I like to live. I like a new challenge. Once I conquer something, once I become a winner in it, I want to go and do something completely different, start from the bottom, and get that. I lust that feeling I get when I win. Okay. I'm not afraid to lose, but I lust. I mean, deep down, lust the feeling I get when I win.
Yeah.
So I make sure I win.
All right, that's great, man. That's great. So so Vincent doesn't work there. What about you, Patrick? Do you work in the business as well?
You tell him I don't work here. I keep getting called in to open and close.
Also, so it is the family business.
It is a family business. So I do work here.
Okay.
You do work
We
there.
got trash done. We work here. Like
Yeah.
security, whatever.
Hey, no, I got a real estate company my father helping me with. We're doing house flipping right now, cars, and that's about it for right now.
Awesome. Well,
And you're a dad, that's a big deal too.
That is the number one. That little girl told me she don't love me because I wouldn't let her have her life vest, which is dripping wet, walk in the house with her.
How old?
What? Should be 2 in August, so 20 months.
Oh, those months are fun, man.
Terrible.
They grow quick, though. They grow quick.
Well, she got her, but she's telling you like that at 20 months, man. Get ready. Get ready.
All right. Well, do you got anything more, Mina, that you want to dive into? Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up. I think we've taken up plenty of their time this evening. I'm very appreciative, and I definitely appreciate you making this happen for us, Ron.
Been a pleasure.
So I want to close by asking, based on what you know, based on your learning and your experience, what advice would you give other people preparing who are navigating the system and preparing to exit? What would you say to them?
To who? Question addressed to?
Each one of you guys can respond. Whoever feels compelled.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that to navigate anything, you got to be a navigator, right? And our lives, like minding our business, like focusing on ourselves, and any problem I've ever been in, it's always come down to that, like depending on myself and focusing on myself. Anytime I get out of that, like it's a possibility I'm gonna fall victim to something. I'm gonna fall. So I think you gotta find that self-confidence, that self-love, self-motivation, like want better for yourself, and no matter the situation. If you put yourself first and want better for yourself, you're gonna get it. And I've been in some hairy situations, and I fall back on my support group, and I just focus on me. No outside influences, distractions, nothing. We get into problems and we start trying to figure the problem out. Well,
figure yourself out.
I have this with him all the time. It's not, you're telling me what she did. You're telling me this. Let's go back to the actual issue, the real problem. The problem was I wouldn't listen to nothing nobody was saying. And I felt I could do it my way. And they showed me that you can't do it your way. Not with impunity. There's some consequences to your actions. When you get to that point, like, you gotta just want it. You gotta want better. You gotta want better. I don't know how to tell you that. Like,
I think the self-love is the word,
like,
right?
You gotta love you. You gotta want better. If you're a crackhead, no disrespect to crackheads. But if you don't want to be a crackhead, don't be a crackhead. At the end of the day, it's your decision. I can't make you want it. You gotta want better for yourself. So I don't care what situation you're in, but just living life. Self-love, want better for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should break yourself down and build yourself back up if you get put in there. Don't even waste time fighting it. Don't waste time. Just go ahead and break this all the way down. Just open yourself up to anything on the path that you choose to take. Just break yourself all the way down to the engine block and build it back up.
Mm-hmm.
And to add on to that, how would you navigate staying out of trouble while you're there?
I got this. Another one of my 10 things. If you're gonna get screwed, screw yourself. Don't follow. I am lucky enough to have 4 leaders. You can't plant those seeds. I think you're born with that quality.
Right.
When either one of them were in trouble, I knew exactly who made the call. So don't make the call. And the other thing is, another one of my things is, you can't help a man who doesn't want to help himself, as he was saying about the crack game. That's just what it is. So if you get out and you want to help, the resources should be there. I'll pay more taxes for those resources, but you can't make that person, male, female, black, white, grizzly, gray, want more for themselves. It has to come from within. So I don't know how you change that. I don't know how you direct that. Then you get to ugly conversation about acceptable losses, but are there really any acceptable losses?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And it is, because you never know. Everybody's different. And everybody's, point at which they get it is different too. It took me 40, till I was 40, in my early 40s, to finally figure it out and go, oh, this isn't what I want. And I experienced some of the same things you did, Vince. And I was like, man, I'm running out of time here.
Yeah,
I got no retirement. I got no career. I got no what have I been doing? And I felt like, I guess like a woman, in their biological clock, just ticking, tick, 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 tick. More time keeps going by. Like, damn, I'm still ain't nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
all right.
I'm glad we had this, because I forgot all about the fast lane theory that I even wrote it. Like, I think I might do something with that.
You should.
Oh, yeah.
I like that. That's a good idea.
I just talked to a guy named Lonnie Morris today. I used to teach at San Quentin Prison here. I did reentry training. I'm an educator. I did reentry training for guys who had been incarcerated long-term and were preparing to get out. And Lonnie had been incarcerated since the fall of '76. And he just got out in May. And quite like you, Vincent, he created a program called No More Tears. And now he's coming out to teach it in the community. So
that's what's necessary.
Yes.
Because all the community is the breeding ground for what's headed to there anyway.
Yes.
So teach them early, and hopefully you can sway 30 or 40% of it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And it takes the people that have been there to be able to be the ones that, because
they're subject matter experts. You're the subject matter experts of your own experience. Can't nobody else bring it like that. Yeah. It'd be, disingenuous. So I really think it's beautiful that brothers like you are coming out into the community and being successful and passing, that knowledge forward. I just want to move down the pipeline as an educator. Yeah, I want to move down the pipeline.
Contemplating. I got working for my father. I refuse to work for anybody else. But this is the children at the juvenile detention here, and they have a homeless shelter for teens called Hearts with a Mission. And I was just offered a position there. And that the only reason I would even contemplate it is because working with the youth.
That's right.
Otherwise, I'm not working for nobody.
Yeah. I'm trying to get all the way down to when women find out they're pregnant. Let's talk about that.
Facts.
Take care of yourself while you're pregnant so your child doesn't suffer trauma while she's in the womb. And then you can give birth and then read to them when they're little so they get literate, before they even know what words are, That's
just
what
like
we
going
need
to prison. Stop preparing. Even though you got 20 years before you go home, get ready now. Same way with the baby. You got 9 months before you get here, but you need to have things prepared because it's about to be the real world for that. That's definitely.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's a great note to end it on. And let's plug where you're, what is it? The motherearthmedicines.com, which is Mother Earth is your dispensary, right? Mother Earth Medicines is the dispensary in Medford, Oregon. So, yeah, all the direct links to this are in the description, and then will be in the show notes as well. And then also, too, we've got their Instagram page right there. And then also, we've got another Instagram page for Vincent's place called Drip Squad. Is that your clothing line?
Clothing store, yeah.
Clothing store?
Clothing and accessories.
Awesome. So yeah, you guys can just go directly to the links in there, and it'll take you right to it if you're interested in checking out what they're doing up in Medford, Oregon.
Thank you all. This has been great.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no worries. And we'll definitely be talking again because I'm supposed to be going up to somewhere in Oregon to go camping at the end of July. And if I do, then I'll be swinging through.
Give us a screen. You got open invite.
Yeah, I'll be swinging through Medford and check out what you got going on there.
Very good.
For sure. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. Mina, thank you very much for co-hosting this and sharing this space with me and allowing to talk to Vincent and Patrick and Ron. Great story. Super inspirational too. I mean, it doesn't have to be the end of the road. When something, when you end up in a bad situation, you end up incarcerated, it's all about what you choose to do after that, which is, for some people that are able to go home, start your reentry program or project or whatever it is that you want to call it the moment you get incarcerated. And start thinking about what you need to do to change your behavior, what you need to do to make your reality better when you get out. So
I have one note I want to end on, and then we're going to let this go.
Okay.
But there's Dr. Howard Washington Thurman. If you all don't know about him, he was Martin Luther King's spiritual mentor during the civil rights movement. He did all of his advising, and he was the one. He talks about living as a responsible endeavor. And he said, in that, you're not responsible for what happens to you, but what you're responsible for is what you do with what happens to you. And I think, I'm giving you all a standing ovation because you took what happened to you and you have done, you brought your agency, you've done something with it that's very positive. So kudos to y'all. Keep living a blessed life. And be great. Just be great. Be all God meant you to be,
Absolutely, guys. All right. Well, I'm going to pull you out and get this show moving and over and go get something to eat because I'm starving.
Be well. Thank you so much.
See ya. So that was awesome, man. I loved the way that we met and the whole way that this whole thing transpired is definitely awesome. And I really appreciate their time and everything that they shared with us. And Mina too, she's been a very, very, very pivotal person in my life of late. Putting together this nonprofit, putting together, the team that we've got behind us that we're going to move forward with now. And, being somebody that I can open up to and, basically, she's been there for me and, I really appreciate that. And, I told her at one point, that she was safe. I felt safe being able to express, emotions to her. And, she's been working me through some of these things that I've been going through. So definitely props to Mina. I respect you deeply. And I'm so happy that we met, and you're a part of, what we're going to be moving forward, and hopefully doing some great things to help people out there. So until next time, like I said, you know what? One thing, Wednesday, I'm going to have my ex on the show. So if any of you followed, the show and some of the things that have happened to me in my past, I'd lost my parental rights to my first daughter. And when she was, I said it was 18 months, but I was corrected. It was 11 months. So I haven't seen her since she was 11 months old. And so her mom, I'm bringing her on the show. And so, cause I want to understand what her perspective was of my behavior and what was going on in that period in my life. Cause some of it, I don't remember. And, I think it's important for me to hear how I affected her. And so I can heal. So anyways, that's happening on Wednesday, I believe at 5. I'm so bad with that. Anyways, thank you all for checking out the program and the podcast, and I definitely appreciate all of you. So until next time, keep it 100, stay true to yourself. Everything else is just noise.
You've been listening to the Nowhere to Go But Up podcast. Sean is a single dad, a union blue-collar guy, and he spent time in federal and state prison for drug trafficking and fraud. When he was released from prison in 2006, all he had was the clothes on his back, a bag of mail, and some paperwork. Since then, he's turned his life around and shares the struggles and successes on this podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you were moved. To connect to the show, book a guest spot. For merch, Patreon, PayPal, and social media links, go to linktr.ee/nowhere to go but up. On Instagram at Nowhere to Go But Up Now. On Twitter at But Up Now. On the YouTube channel at Nowhere to Go But Up Podcast. See you next time.